Hi everyone, welcome back to the audit and attestation class. In this class, we will be getting an understanding about the requirement of Government Accountability Office, that is also called GAO in short form, right? So in this class, we are not only getting an understanding about the requirement of GAO, but in addition to that, we will be understanding the guidance of GAO and the threats to the independence under GAO. So let's dive into for more detail about Government Accountability Office, guidance and the threat to the independence in this section.
Let's jump into the new topic, requirement of Government Accountability Office and Department of Labor. What is Government Accountability Office? Do you remember that?
It's a yellow book.
Huh?
No,
yellow book
standards for
are
auditing the government entities.
Sorry, say that again.
It issues standards for auditing the government entities.
Yes.
Organization which is federal awards.
Yes. And yellow book is GAO, not GAO, right? So Government Accountability Office is actually the office or department which issue government auditing standard or accounting standard applicable for the government entity. Right, and in addition to that, they assign cognizant agency who further in charge of providing fund allocations to the respective entities, like from the government funds, right? And they are also like kind of responsible for like auditing, evaluation, and investigation of those through the cognizant agency for the respective entities who has received the federal awards, right? If you see the definition over here, or you can say like first paragraph over here, Government Accountability Office is known as the investigating arms of the Congress. Congress is like Parliament over there, to support in meeting the constitutional responsibility and help to improve the performance accountability of the federal government for the benefit of US people. So here, what is their primary responsibility? To make sure that government fund which is being allocated ultimately through the cognizant agency to the respective entity, not-for-profit organization, society, trust, church, and those you can say respective NGOs is being actually passed on to the benefit of the individuals or to the benefit of the US people. So that's their ultimately responsibility. For that, like GAO provide like auditing, evaluation, investigation services to the Congress through the cognizant agencies, right? And GAO must be independent in mind and appearance for guidance on whenever like GAO or their cognizant agency respective teams would be performing the audit of those entities, NGOs, trust, society, or church who has received the government grants, and they make sure they are independent. And for the independent, they need to follow the independent rule of AICPA, as well as for additional guidance, they are required to follow conceptual framework, independence of the audit from guidance, or guidance on the independence of auditor performing non-audit services, and guidance on documentation for the independence related work. And in conceptual framework, like we have discussed earlier also when we were discussing independence rules and the conceptual framework rule, what all three main things you need to keep in mind when you are applying the conceptual framework. One is identifying the threat to the independence, right? Second is evaluating the significance of that threat, how much that threat has material impact on the independence or on the overall audit engagement which you are conducting, right? And then as an auditor or as an investigating authority, it's been our responsibility to apply the safeguard to reduce or eliminate the threat, right? So for example, like any of your family member or close relative might have got, let's say, any financial interest in an entity through inheritance, right? So what safeguard you will be applying? So as mentioned in the independence rules, you need to dispose of those investment, those securities within 30 days, either by sell or by donation, right? So those kind of safeguard you need to apply to reduce or eliminate the threat to the independence if you found any such, right? In addition to, like, in the independence rules, we have discussed like 7 threats to the independence of the auditor, right? Do you remember those threats?
It's a familiarity threat, management responsibility threat.
Yeah, adverse interest threat, self-interest threat,
Yes, sir.
self-review threat, management responsibility threat.
Responsibility threat.
Yeah, what else?
Undue influence.
Undue influence threat,
Undue influence,
familiarity
correct.
threat, right? So we discuss all these 7. What are those 7? Adverse interest threat,
Advocacy.
Self-review
advocacy
threat,
threat,
Family.
self-interest threat,
Familiarity.
familiarity
management
threat,
responsibility,
management responsibility, management participation threat. What else?
Self-interest.
familiarity,
Yeah, self-interest. What else?
Undue influence.
Undue influence, right? These are the 7 threats which we will discuss in AICPA independence rules, right? In the government accountability office rules. So there are 7 threats, but out of which like 5 are same and 2 are different. So self-interest threat is similar to what we have studied in independence rules. What is self-interest threat?
Like if we are
if you
getting
have any financial interest in the client.
Yes, a financial benefit or financial aid we have taken from the client, then we will consider into self-interest.
So where we like tend to like please them so that we can have extra services from their side.
Yeah, that's true. That is called self-interest threat, where you please them, pamper them, or agree to their judgment just to gain the additional benefits or additional remuneration or additional work, right? So that is called self-interest threat, where you have your own personal interest or your own monetary or financial interest, right? What is self-review threat?
But when we maintain the bookkeeping, we ourselves will be auditing the same thing. Self-review. Sorry, sir. Not one of the example you have given, sir. Every year that was 1% of the revenue. Without reviewing it again and again, just accepting it in the same way, because we ourselves has given the that advice, and we ourselves auditing the same.
Yeah. Anyone else would like to add what Sandeep has shared? Yeah, Vineet, Kashish, Gurmehar.
So basically, a review of the services which we already provided in the past. Then there could be a chance where we'll not be giving up negative impact on services provided by ourselves as well.
Yeah, which we are not in a position to challenge to the management, right? And next is the familiarity threat. What is familiarity threat?
Since we do the audit of the client or provide any service on a long term, we will they become familiar to us, that in a way that we will be accepting or being so familiar to whatever they say, and even if there are some mistakes, we will be like, okay, no problem.
Basically, familiarity is the reason
being more cooperative, sir.
Rotation, all those concepts are coming.
Having a long and close relationship with the client.
Yeah, so that's true though. So when we have like longer relationship with the client, we get very much used to or familiar with their accounting norms, with their employees, with their procedures and policy. And sometimes we all get lazy and do not challenge too much, right? That is called threat of familiarity. What is undue influence threat?
Basically, we are under influence from the senior management, and we are taking decisions, or we are conducting audit as per their needs and what they are, because they are able to influence us. So In that case, we are not independent and we are under influence from the management. We should not be doing that. Auditor should be independent.
Okay. Anyone else would like to add to Ayush?
Sir, it need not be only management, sir. It might be client also.
Right.
Just an additional point.
Yeah. So there might be a possibility that you can say client sometime. I'm not sure how many of you have faced like client facing auditing, especially like in a country like India, where it is hard to get the documents most of the time from the client, and they try to make you struggle to get those respective informations and document. Right, in that case of scenario, sometimes like the management also might try to push you not to ask for like so many documents, and sometimes like within the team also, like for example, you're a staff and you are very much new to the audit function, and you found any mistake or any inconsistency or irregularity, and you go to your manager or senior manager and you shared like this is the inconsistency I have noticed. So maybe like your manager says like leave it, it's not material or something like that, right? So that is called like undue influence, like either from the audit team side, like from your manager, senior manager or partner or any of your senior employee, or sometimes it can be an undue influence from like client side also, which is like director or senior management person. They will try to push you and not to give like the required information, not allow you to dig down too much kind of things, and they may be are like sharing different view which the management do have, and which justify the management position on respective estimate they might have taken, right? So as an auditor, we should not get into any undue influence. Next, like is management participation threat. What is management participation threat?
So where we assume the responsibility of the management.
Yes, where we are assuming the responsibility of the management, like bookkeeping, HR management services, or maybe internal audit services, right? So these five are very much same what we have already studied in independence rules of AICPA. So there are two new things over here. One is bias threat and second is structural threat, right? So I think when we were doing a practice of some multiple choice question, we have seen one example for the structural threat, right? At that point of time also I've given a brief overview what is structural threat, and the second one is bias threat. Like as the name suggests, bias. What is biasness?
We are more inclined towards a particular point of view.
Yeah. So nowadays, if you see like in India, people are more biased on one religion and more biased on another religion. That's going on these days, right? Or maybe after some time you will see like they will be biased toward one party, and maybe like biased toward another party, right? So that can be possible. Like politically, you are influenced with one party. Ideologically, you are influenced with one particular ideology, or maybe socially you are influenced, right? So we are more inclined or influenced toward like Americans, right? Same way, and other conviction also could be possible. So those all things which will create like kind of biasness toward any particular situation, toward any particular ideology, toward any particular political party, social behavior or culture, or that is comes under the biasness threat, right? It is a threat that an auditor will take a position that is not objective, right? For example, let's say if you are a CPA and you are doing an audit of let's say this have you heard about this Baba Ram Rahim?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes,
No,
sir,
sir.
yes, sir.
For example, you are following them and you are also doing the audit of their trust, right? So if you are following them and you are auditing their trust, if they will ask you to do something for the benefit of the trust, then you would be more easily inclined toward it, right? So your audit, you will not be doing the audit objectively. So that influence objectivity of the audit, and as a result of like it may be like the ideology which you may be following, social culture which you may have, kind of things. So, or maybe like, for example, let's say if you are following, let's say, BJP, or if you are following like Congress, like they also have like their political party trust, right, which is an NGO, and you have been appointed as an auditor for that NGO, right? In that case of scenario also, you'll be when you are conducting the audit, it's not very much objectively, so you will see like a lot of cash transaction would be happening, but you might not be reporting it because you believe in it, what they are doing is right? Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Why this biasness threats is in GAO, not in the AICP independence rules?
Because sir, it is related to the
Those
government.
are government entities.
Absolutely true, because it relates to government and not-for-profit organizations.
Hmm.
What can be an example of ideological?
Sorry?
What can be an example of ideological threat? Ideological threat in
Like I said, Baba Ram Rahim. So, for example, you are anuyayi of him, and you are also being appointed as an auditor for their trust, right?
Okay.
That kind of thing. Next is structural threat. Structural threat is a threat when the audit firm placement or office is within the government entity office. So I'm not sure whether you have seen or not, but have you seen like NTPC office or CAG office, or maybe these Navratan companies office? Like, do you know what is Navratan in India?
Your voice is breaking, sir.
How about others? Like, can you all hear me?
Yes.
So I think Sandeep, you
Yes,
need to
sir.
check your internet. Okay. So what I'm saying is, like, have you seen like the what are those Navratan in India? Do you know what are those Navratan in India? Like
Navratan are a particular set of companies which are almost all PSUs like
Yes.
ONGC and all these companies, and
Yes.
they have is a list of companies mentioned by the government which are Navratan.
Yes,
companies.
yes. So if, for example, you are like this company like Coal India, ONGC, so these all comes under like Navratan companies of the government of India, or you can say the PSU, right? For example, you have given an office within the ONGC, right? So you have been given an office within the ONGC to perform your own complete audit practice from that office, and you are giving a like kind of very nominal amount of rent, which is you can say very much less than the market rate, right? For example, in this big you can say PSU, they have like huge amount of lands space, and to their employees, like most of them, they give like free accommodation, right? Same way they have provided you accommodation as well as the space of office in their premises, right? And now you are conducting the audit of ONGC, and you have identified any material misstatement. So will the audit procedure you are performing be objective? Will you be able to challenge? Will you be comfortable in challenging? For example, an issue is relating to any labor law and that is impacting to the union. So if you made any such, you can say, if you have recommended any such adjustment which is impacting to the labor union, let's say income, then it may have like huge repercussion on your office, as well as if you are staying within that premises, right? And same way, some or the other way, you might be having in the influence of the management if your office or your residence is within the premises of the respective organization, right? Make sense? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Right. So now let's look at this last paragraph, which is structural threat. It is a threat when audit firm placement or office is within the government entity office. Because of such structure of the government entity being audited, it will impact the firm ability to perform the work and report the result objectively, right? If your office is within the premises of the government office, then chances are very, very high you will not be performing the audit very much objectively, which ideally you should have been performed, right? So that is called structural threat. So these two are different than the AICP independence rules. So if you see the notes here, AICP independence rules include adverse interest threat and advocacy threat, right? Which are not being part of GAO independence rules. Instead, these two threats, instead of these two threats of GAO independence rules, we have biasness threat and structural threat, right? So in place of advocacy threat or independent adverse interest threat, we have biasness threats and structural threat in GAO independence rules. So this is the difference between independence rules of AICPA and independence rules of GAO, right?